Hi, Murray Hibbard here with our next segment in Making Pies 2.0. In this segment, we're going to look at using our pastry to make butter tarts. Now, if you're an American or a Brit, anything but Canadian, you don't know what butter tarts are. If you're an American, think of it as a little pecan tart without the pecans in it. If you're a Brit, think of treacle tart because it's kind of like that, but not really. It's a totally Canadian thing and everybody loves them. So we have our pastry here, and I have put 5 of them in, the little rounds that I've cut out, and there's the 6th one there. We put it in, we encourage it to the sides of the tray. And then we go to our filling, which I have made up here. I will include the recipe for this in the comments. This is the same recipe my mother used to use out of the Five Roses cookbook, so it can't be all bad. The most challenging part about making the butter tarts is getting the filling into the tart shells without getting it all over the pan where it burns on and makes a mess and makes the tarts hard to get out. Not that I've ever experienced any of that personally, but I've heard. Usually when I make tarts, I make like 4 dozen at a time. They're really gargantuan things. This time I've made a half dozen. So instead of 4 times in the recipe, I halved the recipe. When I make 4 times the recipe, these are some of my little tricks that I use. I have a squeeze bottle left over from some mayonnaise, and that's what I like to use with the lid on it, of course, to squeeze it into the tart shells. But getting it in there is interesting too. So for that, I'll use a piping bag without the tip on it, preferably. And because it's way easier to put your piping bag in something tall. And usually it's a 2-person process. I get my trusty videographer, who isn't usually videoing what I do, to help me with this, and then we just put it in here. For today, I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to use a Ziploc sandwich bag. Okay, so we're going to get all of our goodness off of the spoon. And then we're going to get all the goodness out of the bowl and into the sandwich bag. Now I see a couple of clumps of brown sugar that I know are going to give us grief as we're doing this, but that's all part of the fun. That's my story and I'm sticking with it. Next, we close up the sandwich bag so nothing leaks out of the top while you're trying to get stuff out of the bottom. There we are. And last but not least, this is a little runnier than usual. I'm a little concerned about that. We clip off a tiny corner. Make it pretty small because you can, if you make it too small, you can always go back and cut it bigger, but you can't cut it smaller. And then we just pipe the filling. It will usually be thicker than this, as I've already said. I am a little concerned about this, but this will do for our example. Don't fill it any more than halfway, if that, because they will bubble up a lot while they're baking. And if they overboil, again, you'll get filling between the pastry and the pan, and that's going to make it very challenging to get the tarts out of the pan. Excuse me. Okay, so that's kind of what it looks like. And now we'll bake them. So in order to make sure that we don't scorch our pan, because 6 of the 12 inserts don't have anything in them, we'll put a little bit of water in each of these. I do have a use for my mayonnaise squeezy thing. So we'll just put a bit of water in each one, like I say, to keep it from scorching. And then, as with all pastry, we'll bake the first 10 minutes at 450. And then we'll reduce it to 350 and put it in for, leave it in for another 10 minutes beyond that. So let's go ahead and put these in. And in 10 minutes, I will turn that down to 350, and then another 10 minutes after that, we'll check and see what they look like.